Having a cool camera overlay is a nice touch for your live stream. So a few weeks ago, I made a couple tutorials teaching you how to make one. However, I wanted to make it even easier. So this week, I have 3 unique animated camera overlays that you can very easily customize with your own logo and your own color scheme. They look something like this, and they are completely free to use. All you have to do is download the Blender file from the Discord, link in the description, and follow along. And quickly, before we get started, if you like the free graphics and tutorials, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It's totally free, it lets you know when there's new content, it lets me know that you want to see more of this kind of stuff in the future, and it really helps me out. Also, if you have any questions along the way, or just want to come hang out with the coolest community on Twitch, I'm live every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at twitch.tv/oraclefishlive, and I love talking about this stuff. That being said, my name is Chris Folea, I'm your stream professor, welcome to StreamSchool. Alright, when you first open Blender, it should look very similar to this. And the very first thing you're going to want to do is just come up to the right corner of the leftmost panel and click this shiny circle button. That'll put you in a rendered preview so you can always see what your overlay looks like as you're working on it. Then, if you come up to the right-hand corner here, you'll see we have a whole bunch of different collections with checkboxes next to them. This is so you can select which overlay you want to use. We have overlay 1, 2, 3, and ignore, which you should definitely ignore. But then you'll notice we also have a camera and a reference collection. So if you click the box next to reference, it'll bring up a picture of my face. A+ picture if I do say so myself, but this is just so you can see what it looks like to have a camera within the overlay. And if you want to change this to a picture of your face and your setup, you can just click that, come over down here to the materials panel, click the folder, and find a picture of your face. So now for overlay 1. Let's say we want to customize this to match the StreamSchool YouTube channel. So what I can do is click your logo here, and I probably want to replace that with my logo. So if you click that, go down to the materials panel, then click the X button and click open, then find a copy of your logo. For me, that's the StreamSchool logo. That'll bring it straight into Blender. And again, you're going to want to make sure your logo is a square aspect ratio, the image file, not the logo itself. Then we can take that and I can hit S on my keyboard to scale it up until it's the size that I like, probably somewhere around there. Click to apply. And you can also move it around by hitting G on the keyboard and moving your mouse. I'm going to leave it exactly where it was because that works for me. But then we have a few different controls on this overlay. First and foremost, we have this double arrow logo right here, or icon right here. If I click that, then click the red arrow and drag it, you'll notice we can change the aspect ratio of this overlay. So for me personally, I think 16:9 is a little bit wide. So I'm gonna drag this in to be a little bit narrower than 16:9. Then we have more arrows right here that you can click, and we can drag that in to change the length or width of this centerpiece. I'm personally going to shrink it in just a little bit for my personal overlay. And finally, in terms of actual controls you can grab and move, you'll also notice we have this rotatey one. And this gets into the fine details of this, but you'll see there's a brushed metal texture on this overlay. And let's say we want to change that away from being a 45-degree angle. I can click the rotatey symbol, I can hit R on my keyboard and move my mouse around to rotate the brushed metal texture to face whatever angle I want. I'm personally going to leave mine at 45 degrees because I personally think that looks best, but I'm a little bit biased. So then down here we can change the colors of everything. First we have the metal color, and I might want to change that to like a light pink tint. I probably don't want to go too far because that just looks odd as a brushed metal texture. Then we can change the LED color or the light color. Probably going to change that to a bright pink to match the StreamSchool logo. Then the plastic color. Black is pretty good, but I might want to give it a little bit of color and just make it like a really dark purple. And finally, we can change the text box where you would put your stream labels or your different metrics. I'm going to click that and just give it a slight pink tint. And that looks pretty cool in terms of matching this logo and this aesthetic. But there are a few other things you can change with this overlay as well, and that is if you go to the drop down by the collection up here in the upper right, you can also turn the logo off and on if you decide you just straight up don't want the logo in there. Then you can also turn the metrics off and on. So if you'd rather just have a camera border with no subscriber or donation information, you have that option as well. Then if we hit space, you'll notice that this also animates. It's pretty slow and subtle just so it's not super distracting, but you'll notice that the lights blink in and out over the course of 5 seconds. And this will apply to whatever color lights you choose, which I think is pretty cool. Each overlay is timed to 600 frames or 10 seconds because I think that's a pretty good length for an overlay animation. Then, for overlay 2, moving right along, we can uncheck overlay 1 and check overlay 2. You'll notice that the logo carried right over, but this overlay is more of like a simplistic kind of design. But you'll notice that it has shadows so it looks like it's punched into the frame, which I think is pretty cool. You'll notice the logo carried over, and we probably want that to match a little bit better. So I'm gonna click it, I'm gonna hit S to scale it up, then I'm just gonna drag it with one of these arrows on the gizmo, or you can hit G on your keyboard for grab. I'm just gonna scale this up a little bit better to match and move it around, and I think that looks pretty good. Then we also have the arrows right here, so we can change this to be a little bit shorter than a 16:9 aspect ratio, which again, very useful. I'm gonna make mine somewhere right around there. And then you'll also notice we have the gradient going across like this. It goes from the bottom left to the upper right. Let's say you want this to be a vertical or an horizontal gradient. You can grab the rotation gizmo, hit R on your keyboard, and just rotate that, and you can change however you want the gradient to be facing. And regardless of what direction it's facing, if you hit space, you can see that it animates completely seamlessly in a loop. Gets to the end of the timeline and it just loops perfectly seamlessly, which is really cool. So that's enough for the physical controls, but then we can come down here and we can also change the colors of everything. So let's say that you want to change the outline color. You can click that, come over here to the color, and you can change this to whatever you want. I'm personally gonna leave mine white because that matches my logo very well. But then we have the gradient color 1, which is gonna be the lower left-hand corner color, and I'm gonna make that a nice dark purple, or I could even just color pick from my logo. Then the gradient color 2 is the color that it transitions to. So for me, I'm probably gonna make that like a nice pink or something to match my general logo and aesthetic. And if I scrub through the timeline, you'll notice that it still animates perfectly and loops perfectly seamlessly. Just like that. And then another option that you have with this overlay, if you don't want the logo or the metrics, you can also turn off logo and you can turn off metrics if you literally just want the camera border and want to do your own thing for the metrics. And then you can also get rid of the shadows if you'd rather this be flat, which I can demonstrate that better with some brighter colors. So let's say this one is like a bright yellow. You see we have these shadows that make it look like it's punched into the frame. If you want to get rid of those, you can select the lamp right here. It looks like the dashed out sun icon. And you can come over here to shadow in the lamp panel, uncheck that, and now you have a flat vector graphic looking overlay. And that sums up the creative controls for overlay 2. Moving on to overlay 3, it looks like this, which by the way, if you crop overlay 2, it also crops the image. Just because of how the rig works, I couldn't figure out a better way to handle that. So going back to overlay 3, if we hit space, you'll also notice that this one is animated. We get these lines that rotate around every 5 seconds, which I think is pretty cool. And the only like real physical control for this overlay is selecting the double arrows, and you can just grab those and move them with the G key on the keyboard. And then click to apply. And you'll notice that as I shrink this in and out, the corners still also animate perfectly, and they stay in position. And I'm pretty proud of figuring out how to work that rig. That was That was a clever little trick. We can shrink that down some. Then for this one, I personally want to just get rid of the logo altogether. So I'm going to come up here and uncheck that. And we also have controls for the outline color and the light color. So let's say we want to make this one white. We can do that. And let's say we just want to make the text black. You can do that as well. Or you can do the exact opposite. But you can make these whatever color matches your stream aesthetic. That's the important part. Make it match you. And that's pretty cool. So after that, we're probably going to want to export this. And we have a few options for that. So I hit space to stop this and go back to the start. Let's say you just want a still image of your overlay. That's very easy to export. First, you're going to want to turn off the reference, which is my face or your face. So you can come up here and check that. And then you're going to want to match the camera, the digital camera, to about the edges of the overlay, just so you don't have all these transparent pixels wasting up CPU power on your stream. So you can turn on the camera collection. You notice this big camera appears. Select that, and we can move this around with the widget. And then we can also come over here to the printer icon, and we can change the width to match the aspect ratio a little bit better. Then we can select the camera tab, and we can change the orthographic scale, and that'll let us zoom in and out. We just want to crop in and get it close. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, just try to get it close and you'll be perfectly fine. Then we probably want to export this as an image or an animation. So if you just want the still image, all you have to do is go to render, hit render image, and it'll pop up in a new window. You just go to image and save as, and that'll bring up a window. We can save this as still overlay. And that's perfectly fine. That'll give you a still image that you can use as your overlay within OBS. But let's say that you want to render out the entire 10-second animation. That's also very easy. You can just come up to the printer icon right here. I've already set up all of the proper codec and export options for you. You just have to click the folder and choose where you want to save this. So I'm personally gonna save mine under StreamSchool, and I'm gonna put it under this particular tutorial folder. This will be overlay animation, yeah. Hit enter twice, and then you go to render and render animation. But for me personally, I'm gonna use overlay 2. And I'm gonna remove the camera around and change the aspect ratio of it. Just to, again, you all know how to do this now. And then I'm gonna change the colors to match mine. One last time. And I'm gonna go to render and render animation. And that will export out a nice WebM file that you can now use in your stream. Once that's done rendering, you can hop over into OBS, and all you have to do is click the plus button for a new source, click media source, and then I'm gonna call this camera border, yeah. Hit OK. Find your file. Mine is personally right here, overlay animation, yeah. Then you're gonna wanna check the loop box to make sure it loops, hit OK. And now you have your overlay in OBS, and you can scale this down to match whatever size you want. It's going to be animating the whole time, which is kind of nice. Then you probably want to get your camera, so you can go to new. You're probably going to want to choose video capture device for your own camera. My camera is not plugged into this computer right now, so I'm just going to go to image, and I'm going to call this camera. Again, you want to get your camera source for this, but I'm just gonna grab my camera reference. You can scale down your camera, put it in the border, like so. And then you can also crop it to fit if you changed the aspect ratio. Then for the metrics, you can just add some text sources. So I'm gonna call this new subscriber. And I'm not going to teach y'all how to use stream labels here because that gets into a whole other thing, but let's just say this is a new subscriber named Toastman46, which hopefully y'all know how to use text sources. in OBS and know how to load a file in for using stream labels. If not, let me know in the comments and I'll make a tutorial for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and change the size of this to be way smaller. Now, maybe not that small, maybe like 20. Hit OK. You can just drag that into the box like so and scale it to match your needs. So then finally, one last thing I would recommend is putting all of this in a group. So you can select the 3 sources and you can, maybe you can just, okay. You have to right click and say group selected items and just call this overlay. So now if you select that group, you can move the entire thing around your stream. It's completely mobile. So if you switch games, it's very easy to put it where you want it for that specific game. Hopefully at this point you have a cool new camera border to use on your live stream. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below the video for new content every single week. And if you have any questions or just want to come hang out, I'm live every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at twitch.tv/oraclefishlive. Come say hi. Until next time, my name is Chris Folea. I'm your stream professor, and class is out.